After the end of the battle against demons and Muzan is over, Tanjiro and his friends get to enjoy their happy ending for a short while before the story heads towards the future in the final chapter, to show us what life is like 100 years later for the descendants of the characters we followed so far. It starts with Kanata Kamado telling his brother Sumihiko to wake up because they have school, and instantly you notice that Kanata looks like Kanao, with Sumihiko looking like Tanjiro, making these two the great-grandchildren of our main characters. From there we cut over to the Agatsuma household of Yoshiteru crying as he reads his great-granddad's book titled The Legend of Zenitsu, with his sister Toko kicking him in the back, telling him to stop wasting his time on these fairy tales about demons, telling him that he'll bring shame to their ancestors if he fails his exams. And this is where Zenitsu and Nezuko's descendants bring up the theory that everyone from back then has been reincarnated and gets to live a happy life. And in the next part we'll wrap up the story of Demon Slayer and tell you who got reincarnated. At the end of the Demon Slayer story, we're told that all of our characters got reincarnated in the modern day. So starting with Tanjiro, he became a boy named Sumihiko Kamado, who still has amazing abilities and once got scolded by his family and the police for jumping over buildings on the way to school. Next up, we have Toko Agatsuma, and she's the big sister who pushes her brother to always try his best, with a dream of becoming a prosecutor in the future. Her brother Yoshiteru is Zenitsu's reincarnation, and a fun fact about him is that he's been hit by a truck protecting Toko, and he tends to be very unfair to others, despite being a good guy inside. We also find out that Inosuke was reborn a little earlier than his friends, as he was reborn as Aoba Hashibira, who was a legendary doctor studying the blue spider lily, but eventually lost his job and became friends with Sumihiko, who found him crying in the park. There's others who were brought back like Rengoku and the Hashira, so let's cover them in our next part. In Demon Slayer, one of the saddest stories in the entire manga is the story between Sanemi the Wind Hashira and his brother Genya, as we learn about their sad past involving their mother becoming a demon, an event which shaped their lives and something the two never fully recovered from. In Genya's dying moments, we witness Sanemi breaking down as he lost his brother, but as a reward for fighting against the demons and everything he'd lost, in the future we see that Sanemi and Genya are both reborn. However, this time the two aren't actually brothers. They're both police officers in modern day Japan, with Sanemi being Genya's sensei, and the two not getting along at all in the beginning. However, they truly become the ideal candidates for Demon Slayer's buddy cop spin-off when they get into a bar fight and scar each other's faces, gaining each other's respect and causing the two to become blood brothers who always have each other's back. Sometimes, men are really weird. In Demon Slayer Season 3, we spent a lot of time in the season getting to know the missed Hashira Muichiro Tokito, and as we learned about his sad past involving the loss of his brother Yuichiro, many fans felt terrible for the two boys, and manga readers know it only gets sadder from here. Eventually though, thanks to the official world of Kimetsu Gakuen, Muichiro gets to have a second chance at life, where he is reborn along with his twin brother with the same name. According to Kotoge, the Tokito twins are both in the Shogi Club, and they're so popular with girls that the force could take out birds from the sky. Fun facts about the two are that neither of them have noticed that they're actually athletic prodigies, but often they're on TV for being the best local shogi pros in the area. Finally, we learn that Yuichiro's brain is really sharp and everything is easy for him but sudden surprises, but that's what he has his amazing brother for, since the two have finally been reunited. Shinobu Kocho is one of the most beloved characters we met during Demon Slayer Season 1 that really hasn't had all that much time to shine in Season 3, but eventually in the series, after the ending and Shinobu's eventual passing, we get to see the character reincarnated alongside her friend. In the final chapter of Demon Slayer, we see Zenitsu walk past a pair of girls that go to another school, and he makes a funny face as he pictures flowers surrounding them, with us knowing these two to be Kanae and Shinobu Kocho, who in this universe weren't born as sisters, but instead best friends. Zenitsu's reincarnation seems to really like Shinobu, and it makes sense because in her Kimetsu Gakuen profile, it says that Shinobu is a third year in her school, and she's really talented, being in the Pharmaceutical Research Club and the Fishing Club, but she also has some fencing tournament wins and is known to be one of the 3 most beautiful girls in her school. The world of Kimetsu Gakuen is filled with alternate world versions of our characters from the end of Demon Slayer, so you shouldn't be surprised that there's space for Uzui Tengen in there as well. Tengen is reborn in this carefree world as the art teacher at Tanjiro's school, and he's still as flamboyant and fashionable as ever, with his students nicknaming him Yakara Sensei, which means Buddy Sensei, showing you just how cool he gets with his students. According to Kotoge, he calls all of his art explosions, and he destroyed the art room with dynamite one time, so he may mean that literally. It's good that he turned out this way though, because growing up, this version of Uzui was apparently a delinquent boss and loved to fight. And in other news, Uzui's 3 wives also make it into this official universe, with 2 of them working in the cafeteria and Suma-san working in the school store. Random fact from Kotoge is he describes Hinatsuru as having a quote-unquote god tongue. Shout out to Uzui. All of the Demon Slayers who took part in the fight against demons and had miserable lives were eventually reborn at the end of Demon Slayer, and one character who was noticeably missing from the final chapter where everyone's reincarnations are revealed is the original Sunbreath user Yoriichi. Fear not though, because of course if anyone deserved to be reborn it was him, and in the final volume release of the Demon Slayer manga in a special bonus chapter, we get a page showing us a guide of everyone who was brought back, where you can find on the bottom left corner a small drawing of a man turned away from the reader with long familiar hair, and this is Yoriichi's reincarnation, who finally not only got to be reborn in the same time as everyone who came after him to defeat Muzan, but he also finally has the one thing he wanted most, a close, happy family, as he likely lives with his wife and their 2 children in a simple life with no wants, and somehow that feels like justice. Over the course of the series, we've had the sad fate of watching every Hashira, Gyokko, and Sanemi die. However, by the end, we see everyone reincarnated in the modern day, with Rengoku, who was the first to go, being reborn as Tojuro, an extremely positive boy who says thanks even when he gets insulted. After him, Shinobu and her sister Kanae were both reincarnated as 2 beautiful girls who go to the school Tanjiro's reincarnation goes to. For Obanai and Mitsuri, they were born as a happy couple who runs a restaurant, finally getting their happy love story. As Muichiro and his brother are both reborn as well, as twins once again, who are still babies in the modern day. Uzui the Sound Hashira was reborn as a man named Tenma, who was a world-renowned gymnast, with Gyome the Stone Hashira being reborn as a very large kindergarten teacher, mimicking his role before the story began. Lastly, we see Sanemi and Genya together as 2 cops who became brothers after scarring each other, and we even see that Yoriichi was reborn and has a happy family, with Gyutaro being reborn as well, along with his friend Sabito. We've discussed the identities of everyone's reincarnations, but let's give a little more detail on how their stories came to a happy end. First off, Tanjiro's reincarnation Sumihiko wants to work in the zoo when he grows up, and his favorite animal is a small primate called the slow loris, which barely moves or makes any sound. Beyond that, we find out that Nezuko and Zenitsu's reincarnations also have 2 little sisters who don't seem to be reincarnations of any other characters. For the Hashira, we learn that Gyutaro meets Sabito and Makomo again when all 3 of them go to the same swimming school, keeping the water theme alive. But did you know that Mitsuri and Obanai definitely kept their promise to stay in love in their next life, given the fact that the 2 have 5 children together in their new life? For Uzui's descendants, just like him, he has 7 siblings, and funny enough, Murata's reincarnation ended up being Tanjiro's principal at his school, but he still has luxuriously shiny hair. Discuss Muzan's search for the blue spider lily and its inability to ever find it, but after the story is over, Inosuke's descendants, who are still masters of the wild, actually do find the mysterious flower and begin to research it, learning that the blue spider lily had undiscovered aspects that could radically change the world of the series. However, because the plant only grew in an exact kind of soil with a very specific watering and light schedule, all of the samples that Inosuke's family picked quickly withered away into dust, and new seeds could never be turned into full plants. However, when Inosuke's family went to pick more samples, they found out that all of the original plants had withered away as well, as picking the flowers seemed to cause a chain reaction that made the plant go extinct. Researchers hated Inosuke's family for this critical failure in science, but with the plant gone, another Muzan could never be born again, making this massive scientific failure more like a happy little accident. At the end of Demon Slayer, we see that all of our Hashira and characters are reborn into new happy lives, but if you've noticed so far, I've never mentioned any of the demons being reborn. In the world of Demon Slayer, all of our characters got to be reincarnated as a reward of good karma for the days they suffered against the demons. However, the demons were all placed in circles of hell, with them needing to be there for quite some time to work off their bad karma and finally get reincarnated. The closest thing we have to reincarnations for the demons are their lives in Kimetsu Gakuen, a modern day version of Demon Slayer that mirrors the world found at the end of the series in many ways, where Muzan, instead of being the king of demons, was reborn as an evil politician, struggling to get any of his evil laws passed because he thinks Ubuyashiki is paying off journalists and other members of Congress to get in his way. And in the next part, we'll discuss what the other Upper Moons are reborn as in this official universe. As we mentioned in our previous short about Muzan's reincarnation, the closest thing we have for modern day versions of the Upper Moons are the versions of the characters from Kimetsu Gakuen. So following up on the news that Muzan was actually reborn as the evil politician, we learned that Kokushibo is right there at his side, still as Muzan's secretary, which is pretty much his right-hand man. There are many rumors surrounding Kokushibo in the modern day because he keeps himself pretty mysterious with his attire consisting of an all-black suit and shades draped in his long hair. Despite the fact that he's technically Muzan's secretary, he's ridiculously buff, so people mistake him for Muzan's bodyguard, and it's often speculated that he was a member of the American Special Forces who's also a master of Iaido and has killed a man with his bare hands, which all checks out for Demon Slayer's most badass demon. We've discussed what happened to Kokushibo and Muzan after they were reborn into the world of Kimetsu Gakuen, but they aren't the only demons who managed to finally get reincarnated, with us finding out what eventually came of Douma after his time in hell. According to the databooks, Douma was reborn as a scam artist whose real name and age is unknown, but he's so famous for his crimes that he's been covered in special programs on the TV. But despite all of these incidents that he's been involved in, there's never been enough evidence to lock him away. Apparently, after meeting up with Mitsuri's reincarnation and trying to scam her, likely with one of his famous fortune teller schemes, he actually went missing after Obanai and Mitsuri returned to confront him with the words, "I had a feeling you were lying," being heard at the scene before the man was never seen again. One character who many people hated immediately after his first appearance in Demon Slayer was Upper Moon 3 Akaza. However, over the course of the story, this would go on to become my favorite demon in the entire series, with his sad backstory that we've already covered on the channel. But in Kimetsu Gakuen, like the other Upper Moons, Akaza gets to have a very different life, as Akaza and Koyuki, who both went to hell together at the end of Tanjiro vs. Akaza, are reborn as Hakuji and Koyuki Soyama. Gotoge tells us that from the time that they were kids, they've been promised to marry each other, and since they were neighbors, both of their parents agreed to it, on the stipulation that Hakuji and his family will inherit the dojo that Koyuki's father runs, meaning once again Hakuji will be able to train under his master and enjoy happy days of him and Koyuki as he gets stronger and stronger, and finally gets to watch the fireworks of his wife, who he nicknames Hime, a word in Japanese that means princess, and I'm sorry, can I wipe up my eyes real quick? We may have just spent a bunch of time with Demon Slayer Season 3, but did you know that demons from Demon Slayer Season 2, Daki and Gyutaro, actually got somewhat of a happy ending after the end of the series, when everyone eventually gets reincarnated either into the main story or the Kimetsu Gakuen official side series. In this new life, the siblings are reborn as Gyutaro and Ume Shibana, and according to Gotoge, the Shibana siblings are the greatest delinquent siblings in the history of the academy. They frequently cause trouble, and they often butt heads with Tanjiro. Gotoge says the sister Ume is beautiful, so she has lots of fans and they never stop giving her presents, causing her to set a record of getting 20 confessions from a guy in one day, because she's one of the 3 most beautiful people in the school, and from her view on the back of Yutaro's awesome motorcycle, the two have the freedom to go wherever they want and finally be happy. One of the Upper Moon demons that we haven't seen yet in the Demon Slayer anime apart from a short scene in Season 1 is Zenitsu's biggest nemesis, Kaigaku, otherwise known as the new Upper Moon 6. However, after being defeated by Zenitsu and spending his time in hell, Kaigaku is eventually reborn into the world of Kimetsu Gakuen like his peers, and unlike some of the others who decided to go on and become somewhat decent people like Akaza, Kaigaku instead decides to become a spy for Kibutsuji Muzan, who you may remember was reborn as a corrupt politician. As Muzan's spy, Kaigaku attends the same school as Zenitsu and the others, and looks for anyone that may be a supporter of Ubuyashiki, making Zenitsu really embarrassed because much like in the main series, Kaigaku is considered Zenitsu's adoptive older brother, so I just know dinner in that house has to be really awkward for everybody. We're nearing the end of our list of demons who got to live out a second life in the world of Kimetsu Gakuen after the end of the main series, and of course we can't miss out on Nakime, otherwise known as the final Upper Moon 4, who replaced Gyokko after the events of Demon Slayer Season 3 when he was defeated by Muichiro. Nakime in life was a simple assistant to Muzan by running his Infinity Castle where her blood demon art. However, in her new life, she became a vice principal at the school that Tanjiro and the others go to. However, she isn't just there because she believes in education, she's actually a spy for Muzan, who, if you remember, was actually reincarnated as an evil politician, and together with Kaigaku, she searches the school and reports to Muzan whenever she finds any hints of Ubuyashiki's collaborators, meaning she really is loyal to Muzan no matter what life she's in, which is kinda sweet I guess. At least she has 2 eyes again. During the events of Demon Slayer Mugen Train, we got to know the villain of the movie Enmu pretty well. After Muzan sent him to intercept Rengoku and Tanjiro on the Infinity Train, and he nearly succeeds before ultimately being slashed down by the Demon Hunters. Much like every other demon who doesn't get reincarnated at the end of the story, he still does get to live a new life out in the world of Kimetsu Gakuen, where Enmu was reborn as the railroad geek Enmu Tami. According to Gotoge, the trains are often delayed because of him, and he often does perverted things when he finds trains. He got convicted 6 times before, but he never reflects on how he bothers others or even gives it a second thought, causing every other train watcher to hate him. But Gotoge meanly adds in, actually, everyone hates him now. He has no girlfriend. And if this isn't the funniest fact that I've ever heard a mangaka say about their character, then maybe the fact that this camera is stolen is, because of course it is.